Fill me. I am a well. I am deep and I am wide. The depths are filled with darkness. I am empty inside. In this dry and parched place I offer no life to those who thirst. Those who drop their bucket into me find only the worst. My walls are cracked, the crevices are filled with dirt. Without cleansing waters, I am left only with this hurt. I pray earnestly for the rains that will fill me from bottom to top. I await an answer patiently, but not a single drop. So I will wait. Right here I will stay, through the darkness of night and through the heat of the day. I will watch each cloud as it lazily drifts by. I will hope in anxious anticipation that one will eventually cry. One day, as I continued waiting, within my deepest parts a crack formed. I felt cool waters bubbling, but looked to the sky to see no storm. It was in my broken state, and through my damaged heart, that life water entered in, just as I was coming apart. I could feel it continuing forth. The waters were beginning to rise. It filled in the cracks of my walls, covering up all of the lies. Nothing slowed the water's flow as it continued towards the top. It rejuvenated my broken places. I prayed it would never stop. Over the top it flowed, pouring out onto the dry earth. It was only a short time after I bore witness to new birth. Flowers sprang forth from what was once just sand. New life was springing up throughout the land. We are all wells. Without water, we are just deep, dark holes in the ground. With water, we become a source of life. Creatures in the desert will travel from far around to reach such places. They will drink the life-giving water. They will feed on the nourishment that becomes plentiful on the surrounding ground. A well that flows over positively affects everything around it. What do you think of when you read this? What's the state of your well? Finding grace. The church bells ring in the tower across from her home. She could see all the people there, yet here she was all alone. Today she decided to join in. She decided to enter into this place. She snuck in as best she could, hoping no one would see her face. On the back row she sat as the people sang their songs. They sang of the amazing grace for which she had always longed. She thought of the irony. After all, her name was Grace. Yet she knew nothing of the meaning, and doubted she would find it in this place. Many of them wore broad smiles, but her face still spoke of pain. She had been to churches before, and swore she would never go again. Yet she wondered silently to herself, was there really something to this Jesus? Did he really love her as much as they say? Is he really the God who sees us? The preacher rose and spoke eloquently as he began to talk of the topic of sin. She considered her battle to do right. It seemed like one she could not win. But the preacher spoke of grace again. As he said, sin doesn't stand a chance in competition with the forgiveness in grace. The words pierced her heart like a lance. Could it be that his forgiveness didn't depend on her ability to use willpower? Could his love see beyond her sins so she would no longer have to cower? An invitation followed the sermon that day. The tears began to well in her eyes. Could she be bold enough to believe? Was she willing to let go of all the lies? She didn't come forward that day. She didn't even leave her seat. But she began to cry out for forgiveness as she found her knees and lost her feet. The truth became evident in her as she felt his spirit well up inside. He understood all her sin and pain. No longer would she need to hide. The broken became whole on that day. The captives were set free. Her mourning was turned to rejoicing. She now understood his sacrifice on that tree. Allow me to speak clearly. I know the lies. I believed them for many years. I also know the truth of grace. As human beings, we have a hard time with the concept. We want to believe that good people somehow earn salvation, while those of us who are soiled are doomed to suffer the consequences of our choices. Let me emphasize something. That is a lie. I don't care who you are or what you've done. God's grace is greater than your sin. I have witnessed His grace firsthand, not only in my life, but in the lives of many others as well. Your shame tells you that you are beyond forgiveness. It tells you that you've committed offenses that have caused God to reject you forever. Again, let me say, lie. I'm not talking about theory here. I am talking about the story of my life. I am talking about a 38-year pursuit of all that I thought I wanted. I'm talking about a person who sometimes lived life without conscience. More importantly, I am talking about a person who now knows of His grace from personal experience. Let me assure you, if His grace is good enough for me, it is more than enough for you. Now that you know the truth, what will you do with it? Will you consider all the ways you have failed and decide you are beyond forgiveness? Perhaps you will choose to listen to my words. Perhaps you too will find grace. The word says, "Seek and you will find." Does this state the desire of your heart? Do you wish to be free from this fear and shame? For the least of these, cars and people racing down the street, a mass of metal and humanity, yet through all of the racing about, no one wants to stop and truly see. We console ourselves when we are all alone, saying that someday we'll get it right. We'll start living for something greater before entering one last time into that night. Until that time comes, with amassing we become occupied, always wishing that we had more, and yet never quite feeling gratified. We don't see the man on the street corner who is simply trying to get through the day. We blind ourselves to the great need of this world as we hurriedly scurry away. We forget about the hunger as we push their needs to the backs of our minds. We replace our thoughts and concerns for them with all the wealth and gratification we can find. For those who are thirsty, we give a never-ending wait at the well. Their souls long for living water. In withholding, we leave them to hell. Unsheltered beneath a noisy underpass, the homeless man lays alone. While we desire a more extravagant house, he is simply looking for a place to call home. For those who lack clothing, who are out in the shivering cold, life has shown them no hint of mercy, whether they are young or they are old. For the young girl laying in the hospital bed, simply desiring to experience good health, none of her treasures lie in what can be bought. She is not in pursuit of any monetary wealth. For the old man behind prison bars, his one big mistake that cost him all these years. He still lies awake at night dreaming of freedom. He still fights back the tears. Who are all of these people, and what do they mean to us anyway? We put on the blinders to our world and choose to trudge through another day. So while the hungry go on starving, while the thirsty wither to dust, while the naked continue to shiver in the cold, we pursue all the treasures that will rust. The words I wrote above convicted me. To be honest, I am often one of those people who have blinders on. Yet the need in our world is so great. The problems people face are not new, and they are not isolated. They existed before our generation arrived, and they will endure beyond our years on earth. Yet we sometimes seem content to offload these problems to our politicians and healthcare organizations. Who will stand up and make a difference? Who will feed the hungry? Who will provide clothing and shelter? I am so selfish, and it pierces me as I write these words. Below, I want to share a portion of Matthew chapter 25, in a section commonly known as the sheep and the goats. I encourage you to read the entire passage. If my words and the words below tug at your heart, don't ignore them. We need leaders who will champion these causes. I will follow. When he finally arrives, blazing in beauty, and has all his angels with him, the Son of Man will take his place on his glorious throne. Then all the nations will be arranged before him, and he will sort the people out, much as a shepherd sorts out the sheep and goats, putting sheep on his right and goats on his left. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Enter, you who were blessed by my Father. Take what's coming to you in this kingdom. It's been ready for you since the world's foundation, and here is why. I was hungry, and you fed me. I was thirsty, and you gave me a drink. I was homeless, and you gave me a room. I was shivering, and you gave me clothes. I was sick, and you stopped to visit. I was in prison, and you came to me." Then those sheep are going to say, "Master, what are you talking about? When did we ever see you hungry and feed you, thirsty and give you a drink? And when did we ever see you sick or in prison and come to you?" Then the king will say, "I'm telling the solemn truth. Whenever you did one of these things to someone overlooked or ignored, that was me. You did it to me." Forever. Traveling this long road, there are a multitude of bends. I cannot always see what lies ahead. I know not where this journey ends. So placing to worn paper this weary and humble pen, there are only so many things to say to you, the most important among them, that love will win. He loved us first, before we even knew him. He is the light of the world. Life without his love is dim. He is the good shepherd who unconditionally loves his flock. He stands before the door of our hearts, and behold, it is he who knocks. Don't deny his perfect love. Don't let this life slip away. Don't put off until tomorrow that which can be done today. He already knows you are broken, and he loves you just as you are. He tends the sick and the wounded. He can even heal the scars. His burden is easy and light, and we never carry it alone. He even gave his Son on a cross, so that you and I could be atoned. Alpha and Omega, yet he knows our names. Once we have experienced his love, We will never be the same. We have never seen his face, yet creation cannot be captured by the human eye. He was, he is, he will be. He rules the universe from his throne on high. He knows your name. He knows your pain. He loves you deeply. He can break each and every chain. There are not many words I can add to what is written above. I will say this: the Creator of the universe knows and loves you. He calls out to you and asks that you let him come into your heart. He's not expecting that you fix yourself first. He isn't expecting that you put all the pieces back together. Let the one who knows you better than you know yourself do these things. He stands not in front of you condemning you, but beside you with his arm around your shoulder. Will you trust his deep love for you? Free. You came to walk upon this barren land, and in this place you will make your stand. But to stand, you had to first fall. You were not reluctant to answer this call. You humbled yourself and paid for my sin. You conquered in a battle that I could not win. I praise you today for all that you have done, for the victory in my heart that you have won. All of eternity will echo with your name. With your perfect sacrifice, you took on my blame. It was you that captured my cold heart. It was you that gave me a fresh start. I want to shout from the mountains. I want to give all that I own. For yesterday I was in despair, but today I am not alone. What is your name? The one that freed us? I know your name well. Your name is Jesus. Healing rain. The palace is decorated in all its finery, and those who have gathered wear their best. Wide smiles adorn so many faces. Small talk is exchanged between the guests. I stand in the middle of this ballroom. My proximity to so many says that I am not alone. Yet I find myself longing to go deeper. I find myself longing to go home. Hidden beneath the walls of these smiles, there are dams designed to disguise the pain. Am I the only one who desires real? Am I the only one who craves healing rain? Turning in circles to look beyond, there is only this sea of faces. Now I can see the charcoal pencil drawings, each and every painted smile it traces. Seen beyond these facades of the front stage, the actors are practicing their lines. If they knew of your wondrous love and grace, for your true freedom they would pine. Yet we are all putting on performance. I am unwillingly drawn into this cast. I put on my own pretentious smile and hope that I am able to last. The effort of the act leaves me empty. The wine does not satisfy. More than anything craving your living water, but in this desert I am dry. The heaviness of my heart has me seeking you. For a moment I nod my head in prayer. Silently I scream your name at the top of my lungs, hoping that you will be there. Looking back across the crowded room, something new comes to light. A sign hangs around each neck, making visible each person's plight. Conversations shift from pleasantries. There is now nowhere left to hide. These masks are worthless props, now that each sign reveals what is inside. Tears begin to fall like rain, as the hidden soul beneath is revealed. These drops that fall are like summer showers. They give way to the true sunshine when we are healed. People work hard at projecting to the world around them that they are alright. The vulnerability that goes along with showing anything otherwise is scary. What price do we pay for remaining hidden? The fact is, we are never likely to receive magic glasses that show us the real that is hidden so carefully behind the mask. But what if we could? What if we could see what was really going on inside? Would we treat people differently, or would we crush those glasses underfoot and return to our ignorance? God is the great lover of our souls. He is there to heal our deepest hurts when we trust Him. However, I have found that He seldom works alone. We are meant to come alongside of one another in our times of need. We were meant for true community. Have your magic glasses revealed someone who's hurting in your life? Now that you know about it, what will you do? Heaven's manna. I am where I am in this great big world. I am a creature of this land. Yet no matter where I find myself, I know it was by the works of your hand. A life of faith is not quite the same when I have no great need, no physical longing for sustenance, so I live a life without heed. A life of greed was never your calling. I have no need to hoard. Yet I hold onto things I do not need, and strive for what I cannot afford. If your manna fell from heaven, it would certainly go to waste on me. Would I even recognize your provision when I am so blind that I cannot see? What an ungrateful wretch I am when I don't look around and see the abundance of blessings that you have already provided to me. So rather than thinking to myself more, what would happen if I gave it all away? All of this still belongs to you at the end of the day. What if I treated everything as a gift from you rather than the works of my own hand? What if I build my house upon the rock and moved it from these shifting sands? Consumerism sounds like what it is, when it is what consumes. Yet the lilies of the field don't worry and look at the beauty when they come to bloom. So may I praise you for your love. May your name always be on my tongue. May I scream of your mercy from the mountains, as long as the breath fills my lungs. May the gifts you have given me be found amongst these words. May my voice not be alone in the desert, where it will not be heard. Here in the United States, we are bombarded with marketing. We are told about all the things that we don't have which will bring us happiness. We are taught that enough is just a little more than what we have. It is so easy to be consumed by the allure of things. Yet if you're like me, you have earned your way to some of these goals to which you aspired, only to find that the void was still there. The madness can perpetuate itself as we latch on to the next great desire. All of these shiny new things are destined for the rubbish heap. Our lives can very easily follow if we allow ourselves to be consumed by them. So what is worthy to occupy our minds and therefore our hearts? Paul puts it well in 1 Corinthians 13 when he says, "Trust steadily in God, hope unswervingly, love extravagantly, and the best of the three is love." Trust, hope, and love, these are things that will remain in the end. God won't ask us what kind of car we drove. He won't ask us about whether we lived in our dream home. He won't be concerned about whether we reached the level of greatness we sought in our careers. He will ask, "Did you trust me?" Did you hold out hope for those things I promise? Did you do as I said and love others? I know that I will have many selfish ambitions to answer for on that day. Whatever you do, don't follow in my footsteps. Don't aspire to the things of this world. Instead, do as Jesus said in John 12:24 through 25. Unless a grain of wheat is buried in the ground, dead to the world, it is never any more than a grain of wheat. But if it is buried, it sprouts and reproduces itself many times over. In the same way, anyone who holds onto life just as it is destroys that life. But if you let it go, reckless in your love, you'll have it forever, real and eternal. His name. From the mouths of the saints, it is carried upon a delicate breeze. Although he remains hidden to us, we know that he sees. His heart is visible in our hearts. His ways are visible in ours. The strong winds of his change have freed us from the prison bars. Now with eyes of wonder, much more has come into sight. We know he never leaves or forsakes. He is not blind to the human plight. Who shall compare to the beauty found in just knowing his name? He discovered us in dark alleyways. In his light, we are never the same. The broken are made whole. The lost souls are finally found. We worship his holy name in awe as our faces find the ground. So we come to the public streets, unable to stay silent about his grace. The judge is pounding his gavel, not guilty, the verdict in our case. How could we still our tongues after receiving such a marvelous gift? We are anchored in the rock of truth. No longer are we set adrift. We were born into this world, but our second birth brought us home. We take our places at his table. No longer will we be cursed to roam. More will join in the celebration. They will lay their burdens at his feet. We will hold our arms high above as we witness sin's final defeat. For those of us who have received God's grace, there is much cause for celebration. Like the woman referenced in Luke chapter 7, I have been forgiven many, many sins. As a result, I am very, very grateful. My forgiveness wasn't received because of who I am, but because of who he is. So it's only natural that I wouldn't live my life out of who I think I am, but out of who he says I am. I am righteous and holy even on my worst day. I am not free from sin and pain. I am free from the long-term consequences. The best part is that this forgiveness is extended to all who seek it. So why are you dragging around your shame behind you? Why are you allowing the things that you have done to define you now? You are more than the sum total of your past actions. How do I know? I know because I have been there and done that. The day I cried out his name in anguish was the day that I was healed. This you can be sure of. You must ask to receive, and you must seek to find. What are the true desires of your heart? His sacrifice. Standing in the arena, I feel the earth beneath my feet. Blood of the unworthy has fallen. The crowd is out of their seats. They jeer and they shout. They scream for my blood. Their hatred penetrates my armor. Their anger overcomes like a flood. The lion faces me, penetrating eyes beneath a matted mane. He seeks to destroy me. He takes joy in my pain. I see my life flash before me. I am overcome with fear. I see no escape from this judgment. I realize that the end is near. My eyes dart from side to side, but there is nowhere to flee. The crowd chants for death. I fall to my knees. Then I see a spotless lamb before me, separating me from certain fate. He draws my attention to an outlet. Behind the cruel lion stands a gate. The king of beasts roars, and he is released from his chains. The lamb stands fearless before him, ready to take on my pain. The lion's teeth dig deep. Crimson red mingles with white. It would seem the lamb is defenseless, unable to win this fight. I run quickly for my escape. I am afraid to turn back and see the lamb that gave his life so that I may be set free. I reach the narrow gate and turn back in a parting glance. The lamb lay slain before the lion. He never had a chance. The lion had his blood dripping from snarled jowls. He begins to devour the lamb, and the crowd around him howls. My heart races, nearly beating out of my chest. The mere fact that I am breathing means surely that I am blessed. The spotless lamb is worthy. He has quenched their bloodlust. He laid down his life for me, and in him alone will I trust. My words do not come easily. I couldn't possibly do justice to the price that was paid for us. Jesus willingly laid down his life so that we could be free from our sin debt. There is no one else that is worthy to be the sacrifice. I tend to glance over the details when I consider Christ's death. There was so much more than that cross. Christ endured emotional pain and suffering well before he felt anything physical. He was rejected by his own people. They cried out for his blood. Even our worst serial killers haven't faced such physical torture. Before he even reached the cross, he had been whipped nearly to death. He had been mocked and beaten. People spat on his face. Then, in his weakened state, he was forced to drag his own cross up to the hill. He could have walked away at any point. He could have decided that it just wasn't worth it. If he had just died that day and been placed in the tomb to rot and decay, he would have been like any other man. He wasn't. On the third day, he arose in victory. Even death couldn't conquer our King. Do you know sacrifice like this? Have you received this kind of love? Do you know the one who conquered the grave? His gift was freely given. Will you accept it? His touch. The pain inside of me just won't go away. Every morning I wake with it, and it persists throughout the day. I have seen all the doctors and spent everything that I possess. Yet with all of their expertise, I am penniless and still can't find rest. For 12 years this has persisted. I would give anything to ease the pain. Even looking up at a cloudless sky, all I can see is rain. Then I heard about this man. He helps the deaf to hear. He helps the blind to regain sight, the lame to stand up and walk without fear. If only I could find this Jesus, that some say is the Son of the Most High. I will give anything to see him, just to have him walk by. On this day, a crowd approaches. Excited people are running ahead. They say that the Rabbi Jesus is on his way to raise the dead. This was the chance I waited for, but the crowd was pressing in. I reached with all I had in me, and was just able to touch his hem. Instantly, I felt the sickness leave me, and my sadness was taken away. All of it was replaced with pure joy. I would always remember this day. But within a moment the master stopped and demanded to know who touched his robe. No one owned up to his accusation, but he continued to probe. With bended knees and trembling hands I confessed my whole story. As I spoke and retold my life, I never realized it would be used for his glory. When I finished, he smiled and said, "Daughter, you took a risk in trusting me. Now you're healed and whole. Rejoicing, I went away free." This poem was inspired by real-life events. The story was told in Luke chapter 8, verses 40 through 48. There are a number of aspects to this, but for the point I would like to make, I want to focus on just one. Faith is a powerful thing. We are all broken inside, and we all have a choice on whether we will simply make do or whether we will seek to touch the hem of his robe. It was this woman's faith that healed her. For all I know, there were others in that same crowd who also had ailments. They too may have touched Jesus. This woman who suffered so much wasn't healed because she touched Jesus. She was healed because she believed that by touching Jesus, she would be. Depending on the version of the Bible you read this in, you may see the statement, "Your faith has healed you." However, in the Message version, he says the words just as I placed them in the poem. "You took a risk in trusting me." I have just one question for you. Whether you are a believer or not, this question applies. Will you take the risk and trust him? Our bodies will all wear out and we will die. This is a fact, and we can be certain of it. Yet the healing that Christ is ready to provide to you isn't just for your body, which is only here temporarily. It is for your soul, which will live on forever. Home. If you could only open my chest, if you could only see all that is inside of me, you would find a heart beating and a soul that longs to be free. I have run so far away, I can hardly remember your face. Yet as I sit here among the swine, I long for your warm embrace. I think of the kindness in your eyes. I recall the times that I leaned into you. In those times of deepest turmoil, you have always been the one that is true. I envision those times when the sun filled the sky with light. It is the recollection of those days that keeps me sane in this night. Although you seem so far away, my mind's eye sees you waiting patiently. I can almost hear my name in the wind as you continue softly calling to me. May you be the compass that leads me back to my true home. Once I return to your arms of love, never again will I roam. I have been a part of a lot of personal conversations. One of the most commonly asked questions I hear is, how could God possibly forgive me? Sometimes it seems like we are beyond His grace. It seems like we have fallen so far that there is no hope of salvation. Yet these feelings are contrary to the truth. Although there are many scriptures that talk about forgiveness, this is a favorite of mine. It comes from Psalm 103. God is sheer mercy and grace, not easily angered. He is rich in love. He doesn't endlessly nag and scold, nor hold grudges forever. He doesn't treat us as our sins deserve, nor pay us back in full for our wrongs. As high as the heaven is over the earth, so strong is His love for those who fear Him. And as far as sunrise is from sunset, He has separated us from our sins. Is your heart filled with grief over your past mistakes? Do you desire to be separated from these things? Repent and trust our Father at His word. In 1 John 1:9 it says, "If we admit our sins, make a clean breast of them, He won't let us down. He'll be true to Himself. He'll forgive our sins and purge us of all wrongdoing." So do you see Him? Do you see Him standing there calling your name? May He be the compass that leads you to your true home. Hope for the hopeless. He stands beneath a busy underpass while all the vehicles hurry by. By no means is he alone in this hurried mass, yet the loneliness inside makes him start to cry. Beside him is faithful companion. Clearly he shares in his master's pain. His ribs show the signs of hunger, and his fur is infested with mange. He doesn't know of the better times, and is satisfied with his human friend. He's never given a thought to another. He will be there until the end. All of his master's possessions fit into a single dingy pack. All of the things he has remaining, he carries on his back. There were no valuable treasures contained within, but to him these precious items have the worth of gold, mostly memories of better days past, like props in stories waiting to be told. There was that old book of matches. He had never struck a single one. They advertised what was once his business, the only thing left when all was said and done. The tattered baseball cards with the names of heroes now returned to dust. He kept them in an old tin can. The years of moisture pocked the surface with rust. Trudging along with eyes cast down, he sees in his path the feet of another. He looks up to see before him someone watching with loving eyes of a mother. She held in her hands a small pack of her own. She had it far out in front of her as an offering. Only this pack she held was new and filled with many desirable things. He sees the smile that crosses her face as her lips parted to bring their first words. As she spoke aloud to him, he couldn't believe what he heard. "Sir, I thought of you as I filled this bag full of things." He reached out with a new hope and the unanticipated joy that it brings. Was it really possible someone out there would still care? He had been so long alone and forgotten. Love was not an option, and he was caught unaware. Momentarily, he cast his eyes back down as he looked to his faithful pal. Dog smiles and tail wagging replaced his normal scowl. She noticed him too. Without hesitation, she reached out. It was love at first pet. Of this he had no doubt. Again, unanticipated kindness and love as she said, "Sir, I would like to feed and bathe your friend. I will be glad to give you a ride to somewhere, and my car is just around the bend." Now there were tears again, but they were tears of joy. He reached back down to pat his dog as he exclaimed, "Come on, boy!" As I think of this story, I'm reminded of Matthew chapter 25, when Jesus tells us about the sheep and the goats. I'm not going to repeat it here, but I do want to mention it. The goats are the ones who are oblivious to their surroundings, or perhaps they simply didn't care. Much of my life has been spent as a goat. I was so preoccupied with getting what I thought I deserved that I didn't concern myself with the needs of others, particularly those who were commonly overlooked. Yet we are surrounded by the overlooked, the downtrodden, the broken, and the outsiders. I wonder, how is it possible for me really not to notice them? Yet if I open my eyes and look around, I see him standing there on the street corner. I see him on the front steps of a rundown building. I see him off in a dark corner, trying not to be noticed. I encourage you not to be who I was. Don't be a goat. Give of yourself to others. Give generously and with a heart of love. That could be you standing there, and it may yet be. The Lamb of Life. I walk, dragging my feet as I go, smiling only half smiles, hoping the pain won't show. I stand, isolated and alone, hiding in dark corners where my cover won't be blown. I sit by myself with my fears, using pretense and masks to hold back the tears. I lay with troubling thoughts. I wrestled them in futility, losing many battles fought. I scream when the frustration becomes too great. I fight what appears destiny, denying that it could be fate. I cry, feeling that it will always be the same. Bowing my head, I am isolated by shame. I call upon the healer's name, praying for strength, knowing I will never be the same. I trust the words that he brings, rebuking the tapes that tell me these things. I am no one. Who am I to fight a war with a pen, engaging an unseen enemy? Am I in a battle I cannot win? I find myself drifting off into reflective thought. I consider those won and lost in the battle being fought. You still love your children. You stay true to your word. May your seed find fertile soil for all that have heard. Yet I have failed. I have fallen short in this goal. Yet I continue to pray that we will find freedom. I continue to pray that we will be made whole. When it all seems futile, I find myself calling your name. Even in the depths of my sorrow, you take away my shame. You hear my cries when I call. You forgive me when I am weak. You understand that even now, it is your face that I seek. My name is no one, for I cannot provide the solution. You are my true master. Only you can lead this love revolution. May that person who is out there hurting know that they are not alone. May your whisper become a scream as you call them home. May the majesty of your voice be heard from the top of the highest mountains, even clearer in the depths of the valley. May your grace be their eternal fountain. May we all become divine nobodies. May we all point the way to grace. May each person who looks to find you see for themselves your true face. For all of my talk about grace, I hate my mistakes. I hate my failures. Yet when I fail, I realize I have a choice. I can choose to wallow in my mistakes. I can allow myself to become my own worst accuser, or I can choose to rely on grace. I am reminded that when I first started writing, I had a vision. I could see myself lying flat on the ground. I realized that I am truly no one. That may sound like I'm really down on myself, but it's quite to the contrary. I am no one, but I know one great someone. For that matter, I know the great someone who is everything. May I assume and maintain my prone position, the position of a servant. May you find that you hardly even notice me, but you see him clearly. His name is Jesus, and he is calling your name. He is calling you home. May his whisper become a scream in your life. Idols of Babylon. The statue of gold is erected, and we, the people, are bound. When the band strikes up in chorus, we are all to fall to the ground. But I serve only one God, and he is not made of gold. I will not bow down before another. Even in fear of death, I will not fold. So when the big band plays, I will raise my hands to the Lord. He is the only King of my heart, whose grace I cannot even afford. So heat up your fires, O King, and prepare to throw me in. Even if I am consumed by them, in the end I know who will win. I believe in the power of my God. I have faith that he will deliver me. No ropes can bind my soul. Inside I know that I am free. Into the fires I am cast, and my faith is put to the test. But I am unscathed by them, proving that by him I am blessed. So call me out now, King of men, so that with your eyes you can see. No fire will consume my flesh, and you too must agree. The King of Kings will call all of us together in the end. Then every tongue will confess, and every single knee will bend. So when this promised day arrives, you can be sure that I will bow. But today is not that day, and no other gods will he allow. There aren't any golden statues here in the United States that were made to be worshipped. Yet we don't need them. Idols abound in the land of the free. We are bombarded by media, surrounded with entertainment options, hit hard by sex, pornography, vanity, alcohol, drugs, cars, houses, careers. The list goes on and on. All of these are things that we can potentially find ourselves bowing down to. Yet we are loved by one God, the one God. He didn't want his people worshiping golden statues then, and he sure doesn't want us bowing before the many idols of the modern world. We're given a choice as to who we wish to worship and serve. I suggest that we choose wisely. Do you find yourself distracted by the idols of this world? Have they captured your mind and your heart? Yet with all of these distractions, do you find yourself with an empty hole inside of you that you can't explain? I know the one who can fill it, and I will be glad to help you in the introductions. Illusions of the dark. Early in the morning, I stumble with little use of sight. Although I know the morning is coming, I still face the darkness of night. Unable to continue further, I stop and rest along the way. I wonder at the stars and their beauty, yet I long for the light of day. Struggling to grasp my surroundings, shapes become monsters of the black. They hide their true identities in this shroud, ready to lunge forward for the attack. My heart rate quickens as I am unable to discern friend from foe. Running from them is futile. The darkness will follow wherever I go. The coyotes sing in the distance. Their lonely howls penetrate my soul. I am dreadfully alone in this place, with no one there to console. I am transformed into a small child. I am truly afraid of the night. There is no rescue from this prison, save the day's first light. As I peer around me, these looming shapes begin to transform. The first appearance of the sun pierces the darkness, bringing promise of salvation. The sinister shapes of the darkness begin to reveal themselves under the power of light. Ultimately, they could not hide forever under the concealment of the night. I thank my Lord for his deliverance and for bringing me his Son. He delivered me from this darkness when I had no place to run. Darkness is tricky. It is deceptive. It can make monsters out of the benign and make that which truly means to do us harm look harmless. We do our best to discern our surroundings when consumed by night, but our eyes are rendered useless by sheer lack of light. Such is the world of sin. Maybe it starts out in the light of day, but it slowly transforms into evening. As even the shadows fade and we are enveloped by the blackness of night, we don't initially realize our predicament. Then it sinks in. We are alone in the dark. Although the very stages, day and night, are unchanging realities of the physical world, there is no requirement for darkness in our spiritual world. God sent his only Son to die for us, so we no longer need to stumble around in the dark. We don't need to fear the looming shapes of sin. They are conquered in his perfect love and grace. Are you stumbling in the darkness? Are the shapes that surround you playing games with your mind? Jesus says in John 11:9-10, "Are there not 12 hours of daylight? Anyone who walks in daylight doesn't stumble because there's plenty of light from the sun. Walking at night, he might very well stumble because he can't see where he's going." If you are beaten and bruised by sin, maybe it's time to stop stumbling in the dark. Maybe it's time to find your knees instead and pray for the light of his day. In my skin. I open my eyes, a new day begins. Another day in my life, another day in my skin. I find myself wondering, what if I awakened in another place? What if I was in someone else's skin? Would I still see your face? What if I was hungry? What if I was in need? What if I suffered while witnessing others' greed? What would I know if I were in another land? Would I acknowledge your love? Would I see the works of your hand? What if me was not me, and I did not know the things I do now? Would you still find a way to reach me? Would you still show me your love somehow? So if me were not me, would there be another me reaching out? Would there be another me to show me what Jesus is all about? If me were not me, would someone still be there to love me? If me were not me, would I still know who can set me free? Who will reach out to me? Who will give me a drink when I thirst? Who will feed my soul if this very day were my worst? Oh, how my heart desires to reach out beyond the world I see. Oh, how your heart desires to set all the captives free. I close my eyes, another day ends. Another day in my life, another day in my skin. Webster's dictionary defines empathy as the intellectual identification or vicarious experiencing of the feelings, thoughts, or attitudes of another. It's a word that we hear often, and yet I would challenge how often we actually utilize the concept itself in our own lives. There is a great big world around us, and it's full of people. Each of them brings unique experiences and backgrounds into the mix. Yet for all of our differences, we have common ground. We have a need for food. We have a need for clean water to drink. We have a need to experience unconditional love. We have a need to experience true forgiveness. We have a need for a Savior. If you were not you, who would be out there reaching out to you now. Wouldn't you still want someone to meet your needs? In the grasp of the enemy. Standing in this valley of darkness, I feel vulnerable and alone. I am overcome with sadness. More than anything, I long for a home. In the distance, a cloud of dust. The enemy approaches fast. All of my days leading to this one. Now I am hoping that it won't be my last. My adversary comes before me with chariots guided by dark nights. I am alone, surrounded. Who will join me in this fight? Horses lathered with sweat draw close with nostrils flared. The stench of death and decay permeates the inky air. Now arrows of accusation fly, loosed by hands determined to destroy. Without your shield, I am vulnerable, and will fall beneath their evil ploy. Now swords from scabbards drawn, the ground shakes as they draw near. My eyes are assaulted by their numbers, and I am overwhelmed with fear. They are given to their anger with souls of wormwood, would strike the life out of me if only they could. Alone, I now stand no chance, and cry out to be delivered by my King. I pray for his army of justice. I anticipate the victory they bring. I turn my eyes to the hills and spy an army of light. Brighter than the sun, I must shield them from my sight. The lions come forward to devour me, but now their mouths are bound tight. Without deadly, blood-soaked fangs to bear, they have lost their will to fight. They turn tail and run, shrill screams as they fade away. The blindness of their night is replaced by the light of day. Sometimes it seems like I'm fighting a battle I can't win. In Ephesians 6:10-12, it tells us, God is strong, and He wants you to be strong. So take everything the Master has set out before you, well-made weapons of the best materials, and put them to use so you will be able to stand up to everything the devil throws your way. This is no afternoon athletic contest that we'll walk away from and forget about in a couple of hours. This is for keeps, a life or death fight to the finish against the devil and all his angels. So alone, I am destined to lose. I am destined to repeat the same mistakes. I am destined to fall to temptation. But the truth is, I am not alone unless I choose to be. God promised that He would never leave or forsake us. So with Him on my side, the battle is already won. Are you fighting a losing battle? Do you look at your opponents in the eye and shudder with fear? The odds are impossible when we face them alone, but victory is assured when He is by our side. Will you call Him to join you on your own personal battlefield? In the moment, as I look to the picture on my wall, sadness invades my heart. I see those I have loved and lost. Grief reaches from deep within and threatens to tear me apart. I ask the futile question, why? But know the answer won't be found. I see images before me, yet cannot turn back time's hand. It slips from beneath me like tiny grains of sand. Oh, to regain what was lost on this long and tiresome journey, I would pay any cost to have them returned to me. If only for a single day, if only for a single moment in time, to hold them again in my arms, to know that they are okay. But not all has been lost. My Creator has a perfect plan. When I feel alone in my grief, I open the eyes of my heart and find that He is holding my hand. Even my loneliness does not separate, even my doubt does not set us apart. On that day that I said yes, He came to live in my heart. I compare this to the losses and know that more has been gained, for I stand a free man now when I was once chained. So I praise Him for His mercy and trust Him through both gain and loss. I need only see that tree to know that He will pay any cost. In the presence of the King, I see the waning of the moon before the dawn of the day. I cannot wait for the sun to come and chase the night away. Over the horizon, the dawn's first light, a brilliant array of color and hue. I am in awe in its sheer beauty. Another day has dawned anew. I peer off into the eastern sky, shielding my eyes from this light. Its illumination is pure and true. Nothing is hidden, all is in sight. Dropping to my knees, I gaze upon your face. Pure light and love surround me as you show yourself in this place. For a moment I feel unworthy as my shame begins pulling me away. Still I see the smile upon your face. I hear you urge me to stay. Trusting your assessment over my own, I continue to look upon you, my Lord. No price I could pay would buy your love. You are much more than I can afford. Yet no price was paid of my own doing. It was all taken care of in advance. As you suffered and died upon that tree, and your side was pierced by the lance. A vision seared into my mind as I saw you hanging there all alone. The pain of betrayal broke your heart, yet for my sins you did atone. Tears of joy and pain well from within. Now they begin down my cheeks. All the answers I looked for on my own were the only place I did not seek. Hands now reach into the sky as I sing and praise your holy name. I can no longer remain silent because I will never be the same. For me, there is no doubt. Once we have experienced God's perfect love, it changes us forever. The exact manifestation for each person is different, but there is common ground. I am insanely grateful for the fact that God would even love someone like me, but the truth is that He does. Jesus made His position loud and clear when He said, I came for the sin sick, not the spiritually fit. Initially, I cursed God for making me sin sick. Now I praise Him for it. The reality is that we are all sick, and yet only some of us realize it. It's in this awareness of our sickness that we seek a physician. He wants us all to be well. He wants us all to be whole and healed. So many of us continue to rely on ourselves and our own strength to make it through, but it doesn't have to be this way. In Matthew 11:28 through 30, Jesus says, Are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. Maybe this promise sounds too good to be true, but it is true. How do I know? I live this promise today. It's not because of who I am. It's about who He is. Feeling weary? Maybe you're worn down and uncertain how you will continue on. Maybe you're emotionally frazzled to the point where you can't take it anymore. You will reach this place many times in your life, my friend. Yet each time you find yourself here, you will have a choice. Will you carry your burden or lay it down before the King? In the shadows. I stand in the shadows where I can be tucked far away. The unknowns of darkness unsettling, yet I also fear the light of day. I wear my mask and my hood, they veil me in protection. I am unreachable, untouchable, unable to receive true affection. These shadows were so broad in the beginning of the day, but now as my life wears on, I see them slowly slipping away. With each passing hour, my dread of exposure increases. My mind is completely consumed, so that the terror never ceases. Please don't cast me into the darkness. Please don't make me face the light. I prefer the shadows of gray to the utter darkness of night. But in these shadows I cannot walk freely. I am a captive left to hide. If only someone would take my hand, face the light of judgment by my side, I could finally walk in the open, where I could be truly free, my mask and hood cast aside, so that all would look upon the real me. Yet as I stand here with arms crossed, people continue to stream right by. Does no one see me in this limbo? I fear that in this state I will die. Among all of the hurriedness of this world, one stops and reaches out his hand. He whispers to me so softly, promising to lead me out of this land. My hesitation is short-lived as I consider my last remaining choice. I reach out my hand to grasp his, responding now to the sound of his voice. I step out of the shadows after years, and now all is under the sun. He loved me while I was still in hiding, and now there is no need to run. I am all too familiar with the shadows. Much of my life I spent hiding in them. On one hand, I was a good, upstanding Christian, but that was only the public face. Behind the scenes, I found the person that I knew myself to truly be. When the mask came off and I was faced with my true self, this person didn't resemble the one I acted out before the rest of the world. Hidden from all of them was my shame, my disgust, and my self-loathing. I feared that coming out of the shadows into the light would ultimately result in rejection. I believed that the love I received from the community around me was conditioned on being this person that I thought they wanted to see. Meanwhile, the shadows weighed heavily upon me. They drained me of my spiritual and emotional lifeblood. I longed for freedom. I wanted to show the person that I had hidden from the world. God knew this person all along, and yet He still loved me. Why couldn't the same apply to all people? Are you hiding in the shadows? Does your mask afford you the protection that you desire? Do you find yourself wondering what it would be like to take the mask away and reveal the real you? Take it from me, one who has been there and done that. You will never find freedom until you do. God has loved you all along. He sent His Son to die for us while we were still sinners. What greater love is there? Encounter with Jesus. Eyes slowly open, feet hit the floor. Another day begins this way, just as thousands had before. The desire for this new day simply was not there. It was not for lack of searching. He had looked everywhere. Lasting peace and satisfaction weren't found in the things he acquired. He searched his heart honestly, but couldn't find much to be admired. As the streams of water poured, they mixed with salty tears. Pain mingled with sorrow, along with his many fears. Never would he be enough. Never would he be made whole. All the cracks in this vessel kept it from ever being full. Oh, how he longed to break away, to discover a place that is free. He was a prisoner to his own life, and to the lock there was no key. What is this life for? What is my purpose? The questions went so deep, well beyond the surface. Out of the shower, he began drying with a towel. The mood that took grip of him was self-destructive and foul. Self-hatred and shame were familiar territory for him. Another day in this pit, and the light was growing dim. Maybe he was better off dead. Maybe there was no reason to exist. He wondered if he should end it all. He doubted that he would be missed. Out the door and into the car, he began driving as he did each day. The tears began to well up again, and he could not hold them at bay. Pulling off to the side as he found himself driving blind, head resting on the steering wheel, thinking about how life was unkind. He could not stop the sobbing. He couldn't regain his control. All these years of wasted life were beginning to take their toll. What about me? He knew this was not his thought. He couldn't get past the question, no matter how much he fought. Me was him, and he had known him before. He had let him in his life once, but ultimately slammed the door. Would you take me back? The answer was a resounding yes. Even after all I've done, I have so many things to confess. I don't care about your past, was the immediate answer he received. Yet he questioned if he was worthy. He found it hard to believe. How can you love me? How can you take me back? My soul is lost without hope, and my heart is cold and black. The reply transformed his heart. I knit you together in your mother's womb. I died for you upon that cross. I left only an empty tomb. I loved you deeply on that day, and I love you just as much now. I am the one who heals your pain. To me every knee will bow. I surrender to you, my Lord. I give you every part of me. I am a captive to my pain, and I pray you set me free. Sorrow transformed to joy, shame transformed to grace. It all started on that day when he met his Savior face to face. The lies of this world run deep. They are the false foundation for the ways we will find joy, peace, acceptance, and love. Yet they all have conditions. These conditions are often let off by a simple two-letter word. If. If I only had blank, I would be worthy. If I only did blank, I could find peace. If I only were blank, then I could be loved. Fill in your own blanks and draw new statements for that matter. Lost and found. Standing on the corner of nowhere and forever, he stares forlornly down both the roads, the burden of his sins weighing heavily upon him, his greatest desire to lighten this crushing load. He is beaten, bloodied, and bruised from his choices. Never had he experienced this truth called grace. The years of his wanderlust had taken their toll. They were etched into the lines on his face. How had he arrived at such a desolate place? For so many years he experienced nothing but alone. The pain of his self-imposed isolation nagged. Deep gashes lay open, exposing tissue and bone. It seemed to him that there was no one to cry out to. There was no one who cared about his desperate plight. He wished secretly for death to overcome him. He hoped that it could bring a peace greater than this night. Surrounded by an endless sea of humanity, yet he wondered if anyone noticed he was there. It's easy to come into proximity with people, but almost impossible to find someone who cares. He knew that he wore his brokenness on the outside and wondered if others were covering what was within. It seemed to him that life was a constant battlefield. He was fighting a war that he could not win. He wondered if anyone out there could hear him. He wondered if anyone in this world cared. Even the simplest human touch was denied of him. It was as if he was a leper, and no one even dared. He was expectant of a life of continued isolation, so he was shocked to feel someone touch him from inside. It seemed this touch came from the very center of him, and there was nothing left for him to hide. The voice from within said, "I see you." He knew instantly that these words spoken were true. Confusion began taking over his weary heart, and he was uncertain as what he was to do. "Call my name, my friend. You already know who I am." Some of the people had to have seen him fall to his knees. The heat of the city was stifling on that day, but from within him he felt a cool and refreshing breeze. If he had only known that forgiveness was available for the asking, perhaps he wouldn't have run so far for so long. This voice continued welling up from within him, singing a sweet and melodic song. His heart finally felt home within this breeze, and he heard the words that were softly spoken. "Bring your wounded and afflicted. I will make whole that which was broken." He never knew just how much he needed a Savior until he discovered just how far he could fall. But it was in this place he cried out to Jesus, finding that he was there to answer his desperate call. Some of us hide our brokenness in dark corners of our souls, while others wear it out on our sleeves. Jesus came to heal us, to set us free of this bondage of sin. He came to make what was broken whole. Are you feeling the weight of your pain this morning? He sacrificed it all to reach you, to heal you, to love you, and to spend forever with you. Will you accept his gift? Lover of my soul, just calling out your name brought tears to my eyes. When I asked you to come, I know you heard my cries. You entered in with me as I confessed my fear of falling. Stepping forward was not without risk, but I could not ignore your calling. I now bear my heart before all, so you may be honored and praised. I will not relinquish this mission until I reach the end of my days. When I suffer and I mourn, I will remember the price to be free. It was you who suffered for all mankind. It was you who died upon that tree. Your love for me is undeniable. You have proven it again and again. You loved me before I even knew you. You paid a high price for my sin. How can I not sing your praises before the whole of the earth? I was a dead man walking. You showed me life through this new birth. I gladly give my old selfish ways. Their joys were short-lived at best. I am distanced as far from them as the east is from the west. You removed these moth-ridden clothes, and along with them my chains. No longer am I alone in my suffering. You enter into even my deepest pains. Your love is deep, and it is wide. You are able to cure the greatest pain. Your grace and mercy endure forever, and it is forever that you will reign. Friends, you may wonder what it means to enter into a journey of grace. It means that you can stop running from Him, stop and accept His warm embrace. So my friend, do you know the healer? Do you know the one who sets captives free? If you are bound in chains on this day, He is the one who holds the key. It is my honor and privilege to share the many aspects of my life and my walk with the Lord. I have a dark past. I have a long list of things to be ashamed of. I found my freedom through a real personal relationship with Christ Jesus, and although I am walking out with scars from many years of bondage, I am free. When I first started this group, I had a single desire that was laid upon my heart. I wanted to reach out to the many broken people who, like me, have longed for freedom but never dared to dream of it. I am here to tell you that it's yours for the taking. He doesn't judge you, and neither do I. So come out of the shadows, come out of the dark alleys, come out wherever you are. Majestic, you stand beside me on this most glorious day. You have captured my heart, and you will never go away. Oh, great lover of my soul, how magnificent is your grace! I see only eyes of understanding as I look upon your face. You do not hide yourself from me. With you, I know I will want naught. You stand with me in the battle. With you, victory in each that is fought. You have heard the cries of your people, and you have set the captives free. They stand whole before us all, so that believers are made of all who see. O my Master, my most glorious King, you fill my soul with your living waters, and I want for nothing. Your Spirit fills me with a peace surpassing my wildest dreams. I pray that I may stay in this place, where only to you will I cling. I shout your praises from the highest mountaintop. I shout of your magnificence, and nothing can make me stop. Your pure white snow has fallen and has covered my imperfections. Only this white covering can be seen from any direction. So I praise you in this song, I celebrate you in these words. May we boldly approach your throne and know that we will be heard. So much of the religious system seems to be built around the notion of pleasing God. We work and strive, reaching out and hoping that what we have done will be acceptable as an offering to Him. We adopt terms like sin management to achieve the status of worthiness before Him. Yet I don't believe that He is pleased with these offerings. In reality, there is nothing that we can do which will make us worthy. However, for those of us who accept the gift Christ gave us, dying on that cross, we are already worthy. He never said, "I love you if." He said, "I love you," period. When I wrote this poem, I was rejoicing. The night before had been long and I was up late. But this morning I was filled with the reminders of God's grace. I know that many struggle with the whole concept. I was one of them. I strived with all that was within me to earn grace, and yet it already had been given to me. The price For the giver was high, but the cost for me was nothing. The same is true for you. Are you ready to lay down all of your self-righteousness and trade it for His grace? I assure you, He is eager to give it to you. My prison wall. Maybe I wasn't designed to reside in this world of pain. Reaching out for the love of others burned me time and time again. So I made up plans on how I could withdraw. I obtained all the brick and mortar to begin building this wall. The bricks were placed in slowly, carefully laid one at a time. My budget for construction was small, but I gladly spent every last dime. The day came when this wall was complete, and behind this barrier I did reside. It kept me safe from this world. It gave me a place where I could hide. Yet in all of this careful construction, I had neglected to build a door. My solace became my isolation, and no one could reach me anymore. Sometimes I longed for human touch, and to feel another's warm embrace. This wall had imprisoned me. There was no escape from this place. Years of food stores were running low, and the well was running dry. I had just enough each day to barely get by. One morning, at the day's early dawn, I scaled my wall to feel the warmth of light. I had slept alone in my tomb as always, and the chill had pierced me in the night. On the horizon, a figure headed in my direction. I had to shield my eyes before his shape became clear. He was headed deliberately towards me, and it was obvious that he was headed here. He carried a sledgehammer. It was held high so I could see. If he knew the nature of my predicament, surely he would know I could not be free. He took his first swing, the sound of steel meeting hardened clay. He didn't slow down there as he continued to break bits of wall away. He was slightly built, yet it was obvious that he was quite strong. Between each blow of the hammer, he didn't hesitate long. When he did rest for just a moment, I saw on the hammer's handle was written love. I recognized his face now and knew he came from above. He made short work of my wall. I anxiously climbed down to see. There was now a large hole in the brick, and I was finally set free. As I walked outside for the first time in years, my first touch was his warm embrace. His eyes told me he already knew me when I first gazed upon his face. He told me wherever I traveled, he would always be there. I could leave this wall behind me and experience love from anywhere. I carried with me my liberator's hammer as I set out once again into this land. He taught me how to break down others' walls, using only the might of his hand. So I cry out to all, from the top of the highest hill, you can come outside your walls. Your freedom is the Master's will. I began constructing my wall when I was a child. When I felt ashamed, I would add a brick. When I felt inadequate, I would lay some mortar. When I felt undesirable and unloved, I would lay low behind whatever wall I had in place to protect me. Yet as I constructed my wall over the years, I forgot a basic principle. Walls are constructed to create separation. My wall was effective at keeping the people and the pain out, but it was also effective at trapping me within. The wounds I had received didn't heal. There was no one there to minister to them. Yet there was that nagging fear. Who would be there to protect me? Jesus answers this question clearly in John chapter 10, verses 7 through 10, when he says, I am the gate for the sheep. All those others are up to no good. Sheep stealers, every one of them. But the sheep didn't listen to them. I am the gate. Anyone who goes through me will be cared for, will freely go in and out and find pasture. A thief is only there to steal and kill and destroy. I came so they can have real and eternal life, more and better life than they ever dreamed of. He is the gate that creates freedom from the wall. He is also the protector that keeps the thief at bay. His word is true, and he can be trusted. Are you living behind a wall? Does it still feel like you're protecting yourself? Or do you miss true love and companionship? Maybe you're looking for someone who can break down that wall so you can experience freedom. Cry out. Cry out now. Freedom can only come through love, and I know the lover of your heart.